Welcome back to the BodyMaitre Podcast. I'm your host, Darreck, and today we continue our new series, How Bad Guys Work. If this is your first time joining, this season takes a new approach compared to our previous BodyMaitre series. Before this, we focused heavily on how others harm us, the blocks, the interferences, and the four bodies imbalances that we receive. But in this series, we turn the lens inward into the inner world of the person who creates the harm. The one who manipulates, betrays, gaslights, or controls. Sometimes they do it intentionally, and sometimes without even realizing it. Last episode, we explored the betrayer. Today, we move into one of the most subtle and complex archetypes, the manipulator. Manipulators are not always dramatic, explosive, or obviously controlling. In fact, many manipulators operate quietly. They work through guilt, subtle pressure, emotional pulling, or psychological twisting. A manipulator influences others not through truth, but through emotional tactics. They bend situations, words, or feelings to get the outcome they want, without ever taking responsibility for their intentions. But here is the key. Behind manipulation, there is always a deeper story, a fear, a wound, a four bodies misalignment that pushes a person into this control-based behavior. To understand this archetype more clearly, we used the BodyMaitre 4 Bodies dowsing charts. We asked the spirit and collective angelic team two specific questions. What are the collective consciousness patterns commonly found in people who manipulate others? And what inner blocks or distortions drive manipulative behavior? Here are the findings we received. Each one reveals a key part of the manipulator's inner mechanics. First, looking at the physical body, the pattern is mental hardness and not willing to accept. This shows up as rigidity. A manipulator often struggles to accept disagreement, accountability, correction, or any alternative viewpoint. When the physical body consciousness becomes mentally hardened, the person closes their mind. They fixate on being right. They resist changing their stance even when evidence shows otherwise. This hardness creates the foundation of manipulation. Because the mindset is, if I cannot accept reality, I must bend reality to match my beliefs. Next, we look at the spiritual body. The finding here is psychic hooks to individuals. This is one of the strongest markers of manipulative behavior. Now, psychic hooks are energetic cords that latch onto another person to pull emotional energy, attention, validation, or control. This isn't necessarily conscious black magic. It is often a subconscious survival strategy. These hooks create dependency, guilt-based connections, and emotional obligation. It makes the victim feel confused or weak. A manipulator uses these hooks to keep someone close, emotionally entangled, and difficult to detach from. Third, we have the emotional body. The core pattern here is let down. At the core of many manipulators is the emotional imprint of feeling let down by others in the past. This comes from childhood wounds, broken trust, unmet needs, or disappointments that were never healed. Because they fear being let down again, they try to control outcomes. They control people. They control emotions. Manipulation becomes their emotional defense mechanism, a way to prevent themselves from feeling hurt again. Ironically, this fear creates the exact behavior that eventually causes others to leave them. Finally, the mental body. The pattern here is aggressiveness. Now, manipulators don't always show physical aggression. Often it shows up mentally. This looks like pushing, pressuring, dominating conversations, or intellectual intimidation. It can be passive-aggressive remarks or weaponizing logic. Mental aggressiveness builds the force behind their control. It might be wrapped in niceness, but it is laced with pressure. The inner stance is, my perspective must win. And from that stance, manipulation grows. When we put these findings together, a very clear picture forms. Mental hardness prevents flexibility. Psychic hooks create dependency. Emotional letdown fuels fear. Mental aggressiveness pushes compliance. These patterns combine to create a person who fears losing control, fears emotional disappointment, and fears vulnerability. Because of these fears, their four bodies adopt strategies to maintain perceived safety. And manipulation becomes their tool. Not because they are evil, but because they are wounded. Not because they enjoy hurting others, but because they do not want to feel hurt again. Understanding these patterns doesn't excuse manipulation, but it helps us see the deeper truth. Manipulators control others because they have lost control of themselves. Thank you for joining me in this second episode of How Bad Guys Work. Today we uncovered the energetic structures that make someone a manipulator. In the next episode, we go even deeper into one of the most psychologically complex archetypes. Episode 3, The Gaslighter. Why some people twist reality and deny the truth. Until then, stay conscious, stay aware, and take care of your four bodies.